Hey guys, Robbie Lewis here, owner of Telemetry Flight Services, and this is your weekly Small UAS SITREP episode 3. So this week we're covering PDW opening a massive drone factory in Huntsville, Alabama, the FAA proposing a new beyond visual line of sight rule for commercial drone use, BAE shows off the Malloy T-150 quadcopter, which is pretty interesting, at least from a military perspective. Central UAS launches a 100-pound payload drone, or a 100-pound capacity payload drone, and Rotor Technologies unveils a Sprayhawk, which is a pretty amazing advancement in technology whenever you think about the application for drones in a agriculture setting. So those are the 5 stories of the week. Some quick little housekeeping. This is amazing. The sour lime. Yeah, sour lime. Waze energy drink. If you can find it, get it. My favorite right now. Our school community is growing pretty good. We had just short of 10 people this week. It was kind of a slow week. I've had a lot of meetings and stuff, so advertising for it's been kind of slow. So if you know somebody that's interested in it, by all means, send them my way. That's about the weekly wrap up and the overview for this week's SITREP. So let's jump into it, guys. All right, guys, story number 1 for the week. But before that, I am going to try to keep these clips a little bit shorter because I know a lot of you are like me and don't have the attention span to sit down and listen to a whole long drawn out video. So each segment I want to try to keep relatively short and brief. If you want more input, you can always let me know. And if you're looking for references for any of these stories, they'll be in the link of the YouTube video on my YouTube channel. So jumping right into it, PDW unveils a 90,000 square foot drone factory in Huntsville. Drone Factory 1, DF01. Pretty cool acronym, kind of fits with the whole PDW theme. Performance Drone Works cut the ribbon on its massive DF01 in Huntsville, just down the road, conveniently from Redstone Arsenal. Shocker. Why this matters: this facility can produce 350 C-100s, their larger quadcopter, and 5,000 attritable AMFPVs is what they're calling their units, a month. So that is huge numbers, putting out large amounts of aircraft in a relatively short period of time. And I imagine those 5,000 attritable FPV units will eventually be screened by the Army for their purpose-built attritable systems catalog. This creates 500 new jobs and injects $80+ million into the local economy in Huntsville. And it marks the U.S.'s push to compete with China for drone dominance in mass manufacturing. Hopefully we're going to see a lot more of this kind of percolating throughout these nodes where there's large concentrations of military technology. I'm hoping for some of that here in Northwest Florida personally. Maybe working on something, wink wink, nod nod, hopefully coming back to that later. So what does this mean for the general population of the United States? Well, it's going to give you easier access to American-made drones for counties and municipalities to utilize for their emergency response, for their fire watch, for their, DFS if they're getting into the direct first responder program. Maybe there's an avenue to use some of these systems for that. And it also aligns with the Blue UAS policies, reducing reliance on Chinese manufactured systems or Chinese rebranded systems, as we've come to know. So yeah, hopefully this is a signal saying, hey, drone manufacturing is fixing to ramp up in the United States, and hopefully we're going to see a lot more of it happening. I can't wait to see what PDW does. They've got a great product and a great team, so I would love to go check out the facility, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's story number 1. See you next time. All right, guys, we're back with the second story for the week. This is going to be probably a multi-pronged story. It's going to kind of evolve and keep going as we learn more about what the Department of Transportation is actually doing. So the FAA proposes an expanded beyond visual line of sight rules. So what actually happened is the FAA issued a long-awaited Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, NPRM, on beyond visual line of sight. setting performance-based rules instead of a waiver-by-waiver approval. So hopefully this can expedite that waiver process for your operations that are beyond visual line of sight, outside of the scope of 14 CFR Part 107. I think this is going to actually be included in Part 108 whenever it comes online. So this is big. This is, again, that effort to increase the United States capability for drones to compete with China, and in response to what we've seen in Ukraine and Russia. So why does this matter? It allows commercial, beyond visual line of sight operations in agriculture, news, media, delivery, public safety. It increases weight limits up to 110 pounds. So that's double the Part 107 requirement of 55 pounds. Creates a permit versus a certificate for low versus high risk missions. So they're taking mission sets and they're segregating them into low and high risk. And I'm sure the approval authority on a high risk one would be higher than that of a low risk mission set. But it moves that marker for the United States towards that beyond visual line of sight at a scalable level where you can see more of these operations happening within the continental United States. I was doing a story for a briefing that I can hopefully talk to you about in a couple weeks, but Walmart is actually using delivery drones in South Florida. We did the story last week of DoorDash pairing up with Flytrex. There's another company out there called Wing and Zipline. There's survey tools, the Centero, even the PDW that we talked about yesterday. All of these systems to some point are going to expand their capabilities past visual line of sight. So they're going to need these waivers to make them more capable. And in cases of delivery systems, they're actually using the beyond visual line of sight waivers already. So this will just speed up that process and allow that capability set to percolate throughout the United States. Local impact for this story is local EMS, firefighters, infrastructure inspection programs. They could all expand without having to wait for case-by-case FAA waivers. We're still not sure what that's going to look like, if it's going to be system-specific waivers or if it's going to be mission-set-specific waivers. So there's still a little ambiguity there, but I'm sure they'll clear that up relatively quickly. So this also has the potential to streamline county-level drone program growth, right? So instead of just having one office where you have to go out to all these different sites and do things, you may be able to just fly everything from a central location within a county or a municipality, which would be amazing. It's just going to take a lot of coordination and a lot of education and training to go along with that. So yeah, pretty interesting things happening in the FAA world. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about this probably on a weekly basis until they get all the bugs worked out of it. But that's today's story. See you next time. All right, guys, story number 3 for the week. This is BAE Systems T-150 armed drone. Again, this is kind of like last week with a grenade drop story. Probably not a lot of civilian applications. I got some takeaways I think that we can learn from, but not a lot of civilian applications. Just a really cool story. So what actually happened is BAE Systems, which is a large military industry contractor, demonstrated the Malloy T-150 armed with a APKWS laser-guided rocket specifically for counter-UAS missions. So kind of a different take, looking at the air-to-air kind of thing. So why it matters, it provides a lower cost alternative to using Patriot missiles or other expensive interceptors. It's already fielded with the U.S. Navy and the Royal Navy over in the UK, and it blends a nimble quadcopter agility with precision-guided munitions, kind of going back a couple weeks ago to the precision airstrike target talk-ons using a PDW C-100 and an F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. So we're hopefully going to start seeing a lot more integrations and a lot more capability sets grow within the unmanned world. So here's my take on why this impacts the local level governments, cities, municipalities, etc. It highlights a growing counter-drone requirement for airport, stadiums, and critical infrastructure. So if you are hosting the Super Bowl, or if you're hosting the World Cup or a large sporting event, then you could potentially have one of these systems doing that counter UAS capability set. And counties may need to plan for counter UAS technology as part of emergency management. So as the landscape evolves and changes, what does emergency management look like whenever you start thinking about a near-peer competitor performing actions like we've seen in Russia and Ukraine, right? So, yeah, that's kind of a no shit thought on that. But, yeah, it's a really interesting story. There's a lot of capabilities and stuff evolving out there. So, interested to see what happens with it. I'll keep track on it. And, if anything substantial comes out of it, I'll let you guys know. All right. See you next time. All right, guys, we're back with the fourth story for the week. This one's kind of interesting. Hopefully they're all interesting, actually, but this one kind of caught my eye. The Central UAS 100-pound payload drone actually does like maiden voyage, or its initial flight test. So what actually happened? Central UAS Technologies revealed their Precision Vision 100X, a new drone capable of lifting a 100-pound payload, and that's their largest payload capacity yet for their systems. And why it matters? It opens new use cases for agricultural spraying, which we'll see in the tomorrow's story, surveying, and industry delivery. And you couple this with the beyond visual line of sight waivers that we talked about earlier this week, and you can really see that capability set grow and evolve. Acquisition by Central Garden and Pet underscores big corporate investments in drone tech. So Central Garden and Pet is a relatively large company, and what that's showing is these larger private companies are seeing the value in drone systems and drone technology, and they're investing their money into it. PDW, that we talked about several times now, but earlier this week, one of their investors is actually Robert Irvine, the guy from the Fit Crunch nutrition bars. Is a big British jacked chef. I don't know. I didn't know he was an investor until I was doing some research, but that's pretty neat to see people actually going, okay, this is the future. This is where things are going. Let's throw some money at this and hopefully get a good ROI on it. Also, this pushes the envelope for civilian heavy lift drone operations. So typically things like the TRV-150 are assigned to that military application. You do have some models out there like the Matrices have a heavy payload capacity. Atlas, Free Fly, some other ones. They're designed to be like drones with cinematic cameras underneath them. But this is just a different company showcasing that they can do the same thing. So local impact for these systems, county agricultural departments. Again, going to talk about agriculture again in the next story. And utilities could use heavy lift drones for spraying, seeding, supply drops, and an emergency management type scenario, which would be amazing. It also provides low cost or new cost saving tools for wide area county-wide or county operations. So if you need to haul something from one area of the county to the other, why not just strap it on a drone? If you have the waivers and you have the technology and you have the clearances and you have the training, utilize it. Could make things really, really interesting. So, yeah, kind of a lesser known company out there that's making waves in the unmanned ecosystem. So, pretty interesting to see. And that wraps up that one. See you on the next one. All right, guys, Robbie Lewis here again from Telemetry Flight Services with the fifth story for the small UAS SITREP for this week. My buddy Luke Jacobson is going to have a field day with this one, so let's hop into it. Rotor Technologies Sprayhawk enters the agriculture market. So for those of you that don't know, small UAS or UAS systems, not necessarily small, but UAS systems are being utilized within the agriculture industry to do things like hydrographic mapping, seeding, spraying, weed identification, surveying, all kinds of other things. Thermal assessments of soil compositions, like it's a lot. So this new company is breaking into that market, which is fantastic, because whenever you have a lot of companies in one market, the meritocracy kind of takes over, right? The best, only the strong will survive kind of mindset. So this breeds more competition in that market to make the products better. And this is another USA-based company. So Rotor Technologies debuted the Sprayhawk, a helicopter-derived unmanned aircraft designed for large-scale agriculture spraying. FAA demo flights are underway now, with deliveries slated for later on this year in 2025. So why does it matter? This brings unmanned helicopter-class payload capacity to farming. So this is a large system. One of the largest civilian drones in development, and it highlights how agriculture remains a proving ground for the next-gen heavy class of UAS systems. So I think this would be considered group. I'd have to look up the gross weight on it. Group 4, probably. So yeah, really big system. So local impact for this system: counties with farmland or forestry, Northwest Florida, pretty much all of it, from Tallahassee to Pensacola, could adopt Sprayhawk type platforms for pest control, wildfire mitigation, crop management, just all the different previously discussed applications in the agriculture industry. I think the wildfire mitigation is a unique thing. We have a lot of state forests around here, and anytime there's a controlled burn that maybe gets a little out of hand or runs a little bit past the fire break, then there's obviously mitigation factors that have to take to rein that fire back in. So this could be a unique and cost-effective way to utilize that without having to use water buckets from helicopters or, aircraft, manned aircraft. So yeah, pretty interesting. This could also strengthen local economies through precision agriculture, like we talked about earlier. So yeah, it's been an interesting kind of agriculture heavy lift week in small UAS stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these stories develop and evolve over the coming weeks and months, and we'll keep track of them and post updates for you guys. So yeah, like I said, if you want references to any of these stories, they are in the link in the YouTube video, so check it out. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for your time, and hope you had a great week.